I became a wrestling fan in 2009 because of my cousin. We would fly down from Atlanta to Fort Lauderdale to see the family, and after one episode of Monday Night Raw and a trip filled with playing SmackDown vs. Raw for the first time, I was hooked. It captivated me. I fell in love with the larger-than-life personalities, the different moves, the different storylines. My fandom began with John Cena versus Randy Orton's iconic rivalry, DX's reunion, my favorite wrestler Jeff Hardy being kicked out of WWE by CM Punk. Soon enough, I was going to my first show that October, and I was there at WrestleMania when it came to my hometown in Atlanta, Georgia 2 years after that. Over the years, my fandom would grow and many moments would become core memories for me. My Mondays and Fridays were centered around Raw and SmackDown. NXT during the Black and Gold era was my favorite wrestling product of all time, and it is to this day. During my summer breaks, I was focused on playing SmackDown vs. Raw and WWE 2K. The WWE was a core pillar of my life. But as much as I've always loved the WWE, I've not always been a consistent fan. Come late 2012, I began to take different interests and shifted from watching Raw and SmackDown every Monday and Friday to rarely tuning in and only catching the clips on YouTube. My wrestling fandom really returned in 2016, where I fell in love again not only with WWE's new loaded main roster, but what really brought me back was NXT. It took me a while to understand a couple years prior that NXT was no longer the corny game show it started as, and after catching countless Sami Zayn and Neville classics on YouTube, I heard way too much buzz surrounding NXT come 2016 not to watch it full time. All the top indie talent was flocking here and becoming stars. The women's revolution was in full swing. I was watching a weekly product that damn near felt like it was booked to cater towards me. Like many wrestling fans, my hardcore fandom has gone in ebbs and flows, but it was 2017 when my fandom died. A number of disgraceful booking decisions pushed me away from Raw and SmackDown for the majority of that year. I'm talking about Goldberg squashing Kevin Owens for the Universal title, Roman Reigns beating Undertaker at WrestleMania, Bray Wyatt losing his WWE Championship at Mania, Jinder Mahal winning the WWE Championship, and more. Now strictly watching NXT only, everything I hoped and prayed for in a wrestling show, Raw and SmackDown got my bare minimum attention. Until WrestleMania 34 the following year in 2018, when two of my all-time favorites, Asuka and Shinsuke Nakamura, would basically have their entire credibility ruined as Rumble winners in one night at WrestleMania, ending my main roster fandom. My frustrations with WWE were subjected to watching much of my favorite talents go through poor booking decisions, terrible writing, and having their talents completely wasted over the years, especially after graduating from NXT. So eventually, when NXT, my last saving grace, left its golden era to become a shell of itself, I was out. When WWE captured my emotions and took me on roller coasters through kayfabe and storylines, I was thankful for the ride. But when it began to break my heart outside the realm of suspended belief, I felt disrespected and neglected as a fan, as many of us did during the times of disgust. I had a different wrestling experience than most fans. When my cousin introduced me to the WWE in 2009, that same summer he introduced me to TNA Impact Wrestling. Eventually, I went on my own wrestling journey, discovering Ring of Honor the following year, then New Japan in 2016, and the hot indie scene throughout the 2010s. I was never solely a WWE fan, actually. I was a wrestling fan. So when I was basically consuming no WWE content from mid-2020 to mid-2022, I had other wrestling products to consume. But you've seen the title. What brought me back? Fast forward to the summer of 2022, and many of my favorites on the WWE roster have left to perform on some of my other favorite promotions. But this WWE was different, with the soft transition between Vince McMahon and Triple H as the head of creative, something I dreamed of for the better part of a decade to that point. This was a different WWE. Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins were having a great feud, dropping F-bombs on live national television. Walter, despite an unnecessary name change, was being treated like a juggernaut as Gunther. Many great talents who should have never been released had been brought back by Triple H, righting the company's wrongs. But arguably atop this list of positive changes was one of the best long-term storylines in WWE history picking up steam. The gold that was the Bloodline. I returned to WWE because I was, like many of the great talents and phenomenal fans, given a reason to come back to loving WWE. And I'd chosen the best time at the start of the Renaissance era. It wasn't quite NXT Black and Gold or the overhated Raw and SmackDown that I grew up with in the late 2000s and early 2010s, and it certainly wasn't the Attitude Era, but it was new and fresh with direction and exciting again. I'd seen a company go from relying on aging nostalgia acts that weren't going to be around forever to save the WWE, to seeing a company finally take initiative to create the stars of tomorrow. I'd seen a company who'd thrown weekly, disgusting booking decisions and the lack of logic out the door in favor of long-term storytelling and more compelling in-ring focus. This was the WWE under Triple H I dreamed of as a teenager, and I just finally got it in my 20s. The weeks and months passed, and I was just about as captivated as ever by WWE. From Gunther's record-breaking IC title reign to the Bloodline and their eventual descent and evolution, to NXT becoming great again in its own right, to Cody Rhodes' rise, to him eventually finishing his own story. And I can't even mention the many storylines and feuds in between over the last 3 years that contributed to me being glued to the new and improved product. Fast forward to today, and WrestleMania 41 is upon us. I'm going in about to witness one of the biggest triple threats in WWE history, the potential shining moment of Jey Uso's career, and I'm living in a world where John Cena is the ultimate heel and Cody Rhodes is the people's babyface. I made this video as the first on the channel because I know it will resonate in some shape or form with fellow wrestling fans. I never wanted my WWE fandom to end. I was driven away. Now I'm just a half year removed from attending Bad Blood in my hometown. I owe so many of my childhood memories to the WWE. I heard so many people tell me I'd eventually grow out of it, but I never did, and I still haven't even when my fandom faded. I can't even explain how exciting it is to genuinely be excited again for Monday Night Raw, NXT, and Friday Night SmackDown again. I feel like a fan who has had something near and dear to them saved from a marred reputation and destruction. And because of that, I became a WWE fan again. It's your boy Wrestling Kenzo, and if you enjoyed this first video on my channel, I hope you decide to follow along on my journey of diving back into the WWE, because in my next video, we got to talk about the grandest stage of them all taking place this weekend.